Welcome, everyone. Welcome to a new series that I am launching. And this series is a very special series called Expert Interviews with Ken. This is a series where I basically interview other people who are experts in their own fields, whatever their profession is, and we get a chance to hear their story and what it is they're doing for people. So with that, let's dive into today's guest on Expert Interviews with Ken. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode with Expert Interviews with Ken. And today I have the privilege of welcoming Amy Thornton Shankland to the episode today. And she is a wife, mother, writer, speaker, fundraising professional, and child of God who loves to, number one, pray. Number two, she loves to walk everywhere she possibly can. She loves to hoop dance. She loves to bake pies. She loves to volunteer through church and in her community. She loves to drink loose leaf tea. I love loose leaf tea as well. So good. She loves to always be improving her health and to be the best person that she could possibly be. She loves to sing. I sing as well. And that is everything that is all about Amy. And she has got a very powerful story that she's going to be diving into today that I just think just speaks volumes to a lot of people that may be struggling with this. And what this is how to basically how to break through having to go to church solo without your partner and how to make that work and all the awkwardness that comes with that and everything else. So, Amy, let's unpack all of that today.
Yeah, all right. Well, shall I start with my story so we can dive in?
Yes, absolutely. Start with your story because I think that's the power of it.
All right, very good. Well, I'm a cradle Catholic. And so initially, I went to church with my parents, mom on my left, dad on my right. And then when I went off to college, I started to pretty much go solo when I went, and that was pretty rare. And so fast forward to August of 2020, I'm married with two young adult sons, and we're on our way to our wedding, my husband and I. And it's a couple hours away from our home. And that August of that year, I turned to my husband, John, and I said, you know what? I'm thinking of leaving the Catholic Church. And he was a little bit shocked because I was a pretty faithful attendee. And he said, well, why? And I said, well, number one, I'm tired of not receiving communion. In the Catholic Church,
Mm.
if you have been married before and divorced, which I had been, and remarried, you cannot receive communion. So I was tired of that. But the biggest reason, Ken, I wanted to leave is I was just tired of going to church alone. I was tired of being by myself as I had been for decades because my husband didn't go with me and I didn't have any friends that went with me before that. And watching families, around me, husbands and wives and everybody all together. And I had raised my kids alone in the Catholic Church. And even though I had my husband's support, that's a tough place to be. And I know there are a lot of people out there doing the same thing. In fact, Ken, as I was researching and working on this topic for a book that's coming out, I realized that I was the second generation in my family doing that. My mother,
Wow.
decades ago, this just hit me recently. My mother did the same thing. My brother Mark and my sister Vicky are 15 and 16 years older than I am.
Mhm.
Mom did the same thing with them. She took them to church alone
Wow.
until my dad went to a retreat when I came along and his life changed. And then he suddenly started to go to church. So, yeah, so my mom was in the same position. And boy, I wish I could talk to her today. She passed away 2 years ago. Wish I could talk to her and learn what she went through. So anyway, I shared that with my husband, my frustrations, but then something happened to completely change my life and change my attitude. So after that Saturday, I was walking a couple days later and I was training to walk a half marathon. So those training walks, Ken, are long. I think I was up to probably like 12 miles. So
Yeah.
I'm walking along that Tuesday afternoon, gorgeous day, and my phone rings. It's my priest. Now, he was about to leave our church because we were doing some shuffling in our diocese. So different priests were going to different churches. And Father Tom said to me, "Hey, Amy, I just wanted to reach out to you. Before I leave, I wondered, could we finish the process for you to receive communion again?" And I'm thinking, what? Where did this phone call come from? Because I had started the process years ago, the annulment process,
Yeah.
and just didn't have the emotional energy to finish it. It's just very grueling. At least it was at the time. And Father Tom said to me, "I think we can finish this. I'm tired of seeing you go up to communion and just get a blessing. You attend church pretty faithfully, and I want to finish the process before I leave." And he was leaving in 3 weeks. And I said, "Okay." And I was remembering my conversation with my husband, and I said, "Father, can I think about it and call you back?" He said, "Sure, but I'm leaving soon, so it's got to be the next day or two." Okay. Well, Ken, I hung up with him. I had 2 hours ahead of me on a walk. Talk about time to think, right?
Right. Exactly.
I had no excuses. And I thought, okay, got 2 hours, let's ponder this. And I thought about that conversation and I thought about what I had told my husband, John, and I thought, how can I say no? And I called Father Tom back that day. And over those next few weeks, he met with me. There were a lot of tears. There was a lot of soul searching. There was a lot of pain. But I'm excited to say that on the weekend that I turned 50 in 2020, I received what I call my first communion. I was able to finally get communion again. It wasn't from Father Tom, sadly. My friend Michelle Correo was the communion minister, but it was such a special weekend. My husband came. He very rarely came to church, but he came to support me, as did my friend Karen. And I can't even tell you the tears of joy. I mean, it was just such a great weekend. I flew in a hot air balloon to celebrate my 50th birthday that night before. I think I flew even higher that day when I got First Communion. And Ken, ever since then, I really feel like the Holy Spirit has lit a fire within me. I don't miss church anymore. I go to Holy Days of Obligation, which is this thing in the Catholic Church that it's almost the same as it is the same as a Sunday. You should go to these 7 days every year. I don't miss church anymore unless I'm really sick or somebody is dying. And thanks to this enthusiasm, this fire, I started to do things differently. And now I don't go to church because I have to. Ken, I go to church because I want to. And I look forward to it, which I never, until 4.5 years ago, had done before.
Mm.
So in January 2020 or 2024, sorry, I was walking my dogs and I was thinking about all this. And being an author, I thought, hey, I need to write a book about this because I
Yeah.
want everybody, every solo person, whether you're single, whether you're like me, you're married and your spouse doesn't go, whether you're a widow or widower, I want every person who's alone in church to feel like I feel and to be excited and to grow their faith. And I thought, well, shoot, I need to write a book about this. So I've been working on it ever since. And that's how you and I are here together today.
That is amazing. And that's such a powerful story. So, what are some of the things that you are writing in that book? So, I mean, I just want to think about the mom that's out there that is, that's got a husband that she really is sitting in church and she really is sitting there Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. Even as much as this mom, um, just tries to put it in the back of her head and doesn't worry about it. It's still there. It's still a thought in the back of her head that I really wish I could see, have my husband here. And then, I think of what would happen if I was in that position and what would I be doing? And the thing of it is I know for a fact that I would be that person sitting there in that pew looking around at all the other families that have their whole families there and feeling very left out, feeling very alone, feeling very, disconnected, if you will. And so I just kind of want to lean into that scenario a little bit and have you maybe walk through like how would you help somebody? How would you lead somebody through something like that? Somebody that's going through that very lonely path.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you need to find the right church, and churches are working more on this issue. Now, what I write about doesn't really focus totally on that. It focuses more on what you as an individual can do, and I'm going to get into that really soon here. But I do want to make you aware that there are millions of people like you just described who feel like I did. You go online and you look up this topic, and woo, it's there's a lot of people that are hurting, a lot of people that are hurting, but churches are recognizing this more and more, so there's some hope. And I didn't focus a lot on that on my work for this book, but I do want to make people aware that 20% of church attendees do come to church alone, according to Lifeway Christian Resources. And Single Friendly Church in the UK shows that many solo people agree that churches just don't know what to do with them. So many people feel isolated and lonely. Like you
Hmm.
mentioned, a lot of times church is oriented towards families. It doesn't address the needs of single people sometimes. And churches often lack social activities for solo individuals.
Yes.
So both single and widowed Christians said in my research that they feel invisible. That's how I used to feel. Now, Single Friendly Church does offer resources about how to change this, and I do cover that in my future book. But I'm excited to see so many things changing. Right here in Indianapolis, where I live, there was a pastor in a nearby church at St. Louis de Montfort, and he addressed this topic in the church bulletin. And I was so glad that he brought that up. My own church is doing some great things. We're doing something called Name Tag Sunday, which not all people like, but I think our church and others are doing it where you put a name tag on, you put your name, and then there's like a little conversation starter. So love it or hate it, it's happening. There's different groups that churches have, like 55ers groups, which I just spoke to that group in my own church, and Bridges, which is a group for people who are going to church solo. So many other different small groups, different things like that. So anyway, like I said, my book really focuses on what we can do as individuals to thrive, not just survive as a solo person at church. So, what can a solo person do? And this is once again single people, widows, widowers, or somebody like me, where your partner's not there with you, or you're there and you've got small kids, which, by the way, can feel even more lonely
Hmm.
than if you're alone. If you get what I'm saying, it's
Yeah, because
difficult.
then what's playing in your head, I mean, I know this would be playing in my head. What's playing in your head is what are my kids thinking? What kind of example is their dad being, or what kind of example is their mom being, whatever. Because I mean, I imagine men and women both have this same thing. It's not just a women thing.
Yep.
But that would be a tape that we would be playing in the back of my mind too. Oh my gosh, what are my children thinking? Oh my gosh, blah 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 blah. So yeah.
Yeah. I am fortunate, though, that my husband was very supportive, and that's important. If you are um, going without your partner, they have to be supportive and they have to be encouraging. And so I do have to say, John was there for my kids' big moments, like their first communion, their confirmation in my church. And so he always was telling them, hey, your mom's doing the right thing here, so listen to her. So that's very crucial is if you do have a partner, that you have that person's support. And if you don't have it, you need to work on getting it because that is essential. But the first thing I recommend a solo person does is to strengthen your foundation, strengthen your faith. And I have been working
Mm,
like crazy on doing that. My favorite thing is books. I'm a big reader, right? I write. And so most writers are big readers. And so there's incredible books out there that can strengthen your faith. And one of my favorite authors is Randy Alcorn. And I'm not sure if you've heard of him, Ken, or
mm-mm.
if your listeners have, but you type his name in any search engine and you'll see a lot of different books. In fact, I don't know if I've even seen them all, but he's written some powerful books that changed my life. One is called Heaven, which everybody should read because if you do things right, that's where we're heading, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a life-changing book. So books are big, but I know not everybody's a reader. So I've been diving into podcasts like yours. Podcasts are often very helpful.
Yes.
It's funny,
Very.
yeah, as I've done research, I've discovered some really cool podcasts, and now I'm starting to be more of a podcast listener. And it's so easy to do while you're fixing dinner or you're doing other things around the house. Go to talks at your church or in your community, anything about God, go to them. Bible studies. This is something that I've not done, I will confess, but I have interviewed people who have done Bible study. And, I used to just think, oh, it's just all about the Bible, right? You're just doing different things with that, but it's a community. And if you're part of the right Bible study, either within your church or outside of it, there's Bible studies. You don't have to stay in your church. You can go to other churches, but that's a community right there that can really help you. Chat with your pastor. You all got to do this. If you haven't had your pastor, your priest over for dinner, do it. That's a really fun thing to strengthen your foundation. We had two of our priests over last summer for dinner on our back deck. We talked for 3 hours. It was a blast.
Wow.
And yeah, and now they know me and we chat all the time. So that was fun. There's 90-day spiritual challenges that you can go on, retreats. There's a ton of retreats out there and pilgrimages. And Ken, I'm excited to say I'm going on a pilgrimage. I'm going to Italy in October.
Nice.
It's, yeah, it's to honor the Catholic Church's Jubilee in Italy. Big, big, big deal. And it's primarily a musical trip. So we'll be doing some singing while we're there. And that has strengthened my foundation. And I'm making new friends. And so all of these things have just strengthened my foundation and kept that fire growing for God and for my faith. So that's one thing you can do. I'm going to pause, see if you have any questions before I share other things.
I don't think I have any questions at this point. I mean, everything you're sharing is just absolutely great, great ideas, stuff. There's even some things in there that I wouldn't have thought of doing, but I will comment on a couple of things. So I too, I love listening to podcasts. And I do have a couple particular ones that I listen to. One's like a little short devotionals. So if I have a day to where I don't have time to dive into, the word and do my devotion, oftentimes on the way to the gym, I'll pull up this little podcast, which is just a basically 5 and 10 minute little thing. And then, the rest of the way to the gym, I'm just kind of praying and, just kind of, further seeking that out. But I love that. And then in regards to books, like if you are into the audio thing and podcasts and different things like that, another really great thing, which is something that I love and I do, it's a way for me to get through books because I got a quirky brain. So sometimes I'll get into a book and read through a book. And if it's not something that is literally holding my attention, oftentimes I won't get through the whole book just because I get, distracted and go on to another thing or I get bored. And so one of the things that I've done to combat that is audiobooks. I love audiobooks. Are you kidding me? It's such a fun way to get information from a book into your head and then you put that thing on double speed if you can keep keep ahead of it and keep track of it. And you get through the book like that. It's crazy. I love it. So, I mean, for those of you who aren't utilizing these tools that we have available to us today, I mean, ever since I think 2020, the podcasting world has just exploded. There are millions and millions of things out there, podcasts and different subjects you can we are literally I know it's been said before years ago, but I feel like now today it really is true. We are in the information age. And there
Mhm.
is so much readily and available to us. So just kind of wanted to speak into that just for a moment there, because I think that's a very powerful way. And when it comes to podcasts and audiobooks, you can also multitask. If you're the kind of person that you can do something
Yep.
else and have that come into your head as well and remember what you're listening to while you're multitasking, then utilize that as well. A lot of my drive time is I utilize that dead space, in the car. I'm either listening to a book, I'm listening to a podcast, a documentary, or something like that. So I love those things. Anyhow, back to you.
Yes, thank you for the reminder because it's hard for me to be like you don't read books. Well, no, there's different ways to go about it nowadays. And yes, audiobooks are a wonderful tool. And yeah, I can't believe how many podcasts are out there. When I was getting into that world, I millions. It's amazing. So surely you can find something that you would like, solo people out there that would help you. So another thing you can do, go to church with others in your situation. And Ken, this was huge for me. I
Mm.
was really lucky. A friend of mine went to church with this woman named Karen, and I would see them across the church. And Karen had two boys, just like I did. And I saw the friends sitting together. And then one day, my friend moved away. She moved to Seattle. So there's Karen and her boys across the church. And this is 20 some years ago. And I thought, you know what? She's alone with two boys. I'm alone with two boys. I'm going to see if she would like to sit with me at church. And so I introduced myself. And Ken, here we are 20 plus years later. Karen's family, my family, we are friends. Our sons became friends. In fact, two of them are best friends, one from each family.
Mm.
And Karen and I really supported each other in our solo at church situation. And that was humongous. That was so helpful. So look around your own church, see if somebody is in your situation, see if there's another widow, if you're a widow. That helps a lot. And so Karen and I have helped each other. My best friend, she was solo. Unfortunately, she's 2.5 hours away, way too far away. But we still support each other across the miles. She raised her kids solo. All four kids went through everything, and she encouraged me. And so, yes, that is crucial. So find others in your situation. And like I said earlier, if you're in the situation that I'm in and that Karen is in, you have to have your spouse's support or your partner's support, or I don't think it can work if you don't have that person's support. It's very, very important. Another fun thing that I've been doing, Ken, is finding and meeting with what I call my God friends. I love this because I don't have it in my own home. I kind of do, but I don't. So I've got, gosh, 6, 7, 8 God friends that I have lunch with, or we go to church together, and we will talk about our lives, and invariably the God moments happen. And we start sharing our stories. The woman that gave me communion 4.5 years ago, Michelle,
Mm.
she's a great support for me. So when you have all those friends in your life, it makes it easier to be solo at church. And I'm getting new friends thanks to getting ready for this trip to Italy. We're having choir rehearsals, and it's just been great. It's been opening up my heart, opening up my mind. I'm enjoying these friends, and it's been a great reminder of how much I love to sing for the Lord. So
Love
that's been
that.
tremendous. Yeah. So get those God friends, everybody. Very, very important, either in your church or outside your church. By the way, in your church, and this is actually something kind of new that I've been doing. I've only been doing it the last couple of years. My next point is You need to create your own church family. I never thought about this before. I, unfortunately, probably as recent as just a couple of years ago, I would do my volunteer work at church, but then when I was done, I'd go. And I would go to church and then I would leave. There was no lingering afterwards. I didn't chit chat with the priest. Now I am building that church family. I stay after each service and I find people to chat with. I'll talk to a priest or two priests if they're out there after church because we have two or three that do our services. So I'll chit chat 5-10 minutes. I volunteer where and when I can, and I don't just run off when that's all done. More chit chatting. I'm doing more of the fun stuff at my church. And this is something that might be hard for people too, Ken, because a lot of festivals that churches have and other events, who's primarily there? Well, it's going to be families, it's going to be couples. At least that's been my observation. Now I'm trying to do more of the fun stuff, and I'm excited. Our church is growing that. And so I made a vow in 2025 to go to more of our festivals because I'm building my church family, right? I'll
Right.
find people that we know. And I also make it a point, I've been sitting with the same two women. We have our spot. Doesn't everybody have their spot, right? At
Yes.
church, their pew, and so Elizabeth and Colleen and I, we have our spot. We check in with each other. And so we always sit together at church, which is just wonderful. And thanks to writing this book, I'm building my church family and my God friends. So I've interviewed well over a dozen people for this book, and that's helped me build my church family and my God friends. So now when I go to church, Ken, instead of just going to my spot, doing my thing, and leaving, now I'm like, Tony, John, how you doing? And we're catching up, and I'm having so much fun with it. So yeah, those are the big, big things you can do, and I can even summarize them once again for your listeners.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
number one,
yeah,
if
I
you're ready, you
definitely
have a question.
Yeah, definitely gonna have you summarize those for sure because that's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of
I
stuff there. I think one of the things that hit me because I tend to be one of those people that, as soon as church is done, um, I book it out of there. But in the most recent years, since I've become the sound guy at my church, which I am, and I'm pretty much the head of that, and I'm the pretty much lone ranger, if you will. There's nobody else that that does it but me. Um, I kind of am forced to linger and stay because I got to break down the stage, I got to do things, and I've got to. So I mean, I kind of treat the whole system and our equipment and different things like that as my own. So I make sure everything is put back the way it's supposed to, and then I'm also having conversations with the team in the meantime. So that's kind of my world. It kind of forces me that has kind of forced me to have to linger, to have to, have those conversations. So even stuff like that, if you can find a way that where you can serve in your church and have that be something that kind of almost forces you to have that linger time, to have that conversations, then I think that is an excellent way. I love doing sound in my church. I would have it no other way. I've been doing it for 8 years and I love it. I love the ability to. Um, well, it's like one of my sound mentors said one Sunday. He's like, "You are just as much of a musician as they are." Because you make everything come out of the speakers. You level it, you balance it, and you're kind of like it's like you're working with those strings. And when he said that to me, it just kind of brought a whole new light to what I do. Is as the sound guy, I'm like, wow, I never really thought of it that way. But again, that whole thing, the reason why I share that story is because that's been a way for me to linger around and connect and have those conversations and different things like that. So I love that. I really love that you mentioned that.
That's a great point. And, it's so funny. Sometimes I'll think, well, duh, why didn't I mention this? I forgot that I've been a reader at my church now for probably 21 years. And so, yeah, that forces you to talk to people when you're reading the Word of God and you're getting ready. And then when you're bringing the book back afterwards, you got to talk to people. And so, yeah, that's tremendous. So, when you are the sound person or you have a volunteer role that's a part of the service, yeah, absolutely. You have to talk to people and grow your church family. So, what a cool role for you.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Wouldn't have it any other way because I don't know. There's something about it. Like I love being able to control the way things sound. I often wonder what it would be like if if I, one day just decided to kind of step back from that and now I'm sitting in the congregation and listening. What would it be like for me to sit there knowing that I have no control? Would I be distracted by this doesn't sound right, that doesn't sound right, this needs to be up further, that needs to be up further. So I love the role that I play because I've got control of that. I know that kind of sounds really weird, like, oh my gosh, she's a control freak, but I just love making things sound wonderful. And yes, it does. It creates great conversations.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. And thank you for letting me remember. Well, yeah, I kind of have the same thing, although not every service, but I do read
Right.
quite a bit. So, yeah, when you've got that role, yep, you have to talk to people. It's a great way to get you outside that comfort zone, which, by the way, that's really what my book is all about. You got to get out of your comfort zone and you got to grow. And trust me, it is going to make all the difference. And you're just not going to go to church because you have to. You're going to start going to church because you want to, and it's going to be so wonderful.
Hmm.
So, in summary, everybody, and there'll be more in my book, I'm sure. I'm about halfway through writing it, but in summary, to thrive, not just survive while attending church solo, you need to strengthen your foundation. Number one. Next, you need to go to church with others in your situation. And boy, with 20% of people going solo to church, that should be pretty easy.
Hmm.
If you're married, get the support of your spouse at the very least. That's quite crucial. Next, find and meet with your God friends, both in your church and outside of your church. And finally, you've got to create your own church family.
Absolutely. Great summary. I love that. I love that. And do you have any last minute? Can you believe we're already like 43 minutes in this thing?
No,
Uh,
I've been having way too much fun.
I know, right? I'm like, I looked up and I was like, really? It's been like, oh my gosh. But do you have any other things that you'd like to share as we're kind of wrapping up today? Any other key points, any other key things, that you just really want to go, this, and this?
I'm going to look real quick because, of course, I have notes.
Oh, of
Oh,
course.
yes, there is one more thing. There is one more thing.
I
So
love it.
another moment, it's interesting when you write a book, you think you're going to go down one path and then other things go, wait a minute, you need to do this. I do want to encourage people, don't just work on yourself. Don't just try to make yourself thrive solo at church. Try to help others
Mm.
thrive solo at church. This was something that hit me about 2 or 3 months ago when I interviewed somebody. A friend of mine told me that she's had to go to church alone because her husband has a disability. So this is new. She's used to going with him, but now he can no longer attend. And there's somebody at her church that always gives her a great big bear hug and asks very sincerely, "What's going on in your life? How are you doing?"
Mm.
And he's alone too. He's solo also. And so they're encouraging each other. So one thing I've started to do is I've been looking around for other solo people. There's a woman, it's so funny. She helps her husband when she goes up for communion in my church, and she puts her hand down on the end of the pew where I'm sitting. And for the past couple of months, Ken, I've been putting my hand down on front of hers, on top of hers, and squeezing it. And finally, I told her last weekend, I said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm not trying to be weird. That's just me saying hello and building a connection with you." And she said, "I know, and I really am glad you started." So it's stuff like that. There's a woman who is always alone across the aisle from me. She's got a walker. And we have
Mm,
a traditional Catholic church where you say, peace be with you. And you
hmm.
either shake people's hands, or if people are nervous about germs, which I get nowadays, especially in the winter, you just wave and say hi. And so I go across the aisle. Her name is Phyllis. And now I say, peace be with you to her. And she was kind of surprised, but I said, you know what? You're solo in church like I am, and I just want to say hi. So start doing stuff like that because, boy, you're going to feel really good and you're going to make that other person feel really good too. So look outside yourself. I think that's a good final point.
Yeah, it definitely is a good final point. And I get it. I know some of these things might sound a little scary to some people. Um, I'm typically not, like I said, I'm not always the one to go up and introduce myself to somebody, say hi, and have a conversation. That's kind of one of the reasons why I love the fact that I do sound, because it kind of forces me out to be able to do stuff like that. It takes a lot for me to build something, a friendship or something with somebody. It takes a lot for me to do that. I tend to be very closed as far as what I'll share until I really, really, really get to know somebody. But so my encouragement to anybody in the audience today listening who's kind of having that little bit of like, oh, I don't know about that, like talking to people, oh my gosh, try to find a way to take it one step at a time. Maybe take a week, maybe take 1 week and just go, I'm going to talk to one person, and
Yes.
just one person, and just start there. Some of you have heard this said before. It might be cliche-ish, but I'm still going to share it. A journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first step. And if that's all you take over the course of a week or two, then that's fine. At least you move forward. Then, after, maybe a week or two, take the next step, and then take the next
Mhm.
step. Make it sustainable. Make it something that you can latch onto. Make it in pieces. It doesn't have to be all at once. Amy here mentioned numerous of things you can do, and it can be very, very easy to take a lot of that stuff and become overwhelmed with it, and then further close in and be with yourself. I am encouraging you to take one or two simple pieces of that are doable, that you think that you can do. They're small enough pieces that you can do, and take those first steps, because then those first steps will lead to other steps, and then other steps will lead to other steps, and then you're going to be encouraged, and then this is going to happen. So anyhow, all of this is kind of to further all the things that Amy has shared with you guys on this interview.
Yep. Don't forget, people listening. This took me 4.5 years. I did not do all of this at once.
Exactly. It's just like my journey, my weight loss journey. It took me 5.5 years to lose 62.5 pounds. And then now I've kept it off for 6+ years now. I'll be talking more about that in just a second as we wrap up and I go over a few announcements. So with that, Amy, what I'd like to do is, how can people in the audience connect with you? What is the best way? So if they want to kind of like start, they want to build that connection with you and get some expert advice on how to get through this season in their life, how would they connect with you?
All right. So I'm going to do two methods. Number one's old school. I am still an email girl. So you can reach out to me at Amy, S as in Sam, at greenavenue.info. But I am growing my social media also. And my favorite still is Facebook. So you can find me on Facebook at author Amy Thornton, Thornton.
Awesome. And that email address, once again, just in case if you were wondering what that S was for, so that's Amy, AMYS at greenavenue.info is what that is, and then you've got her Facebook. So those are the ways you can connect with her. So if you're that person and you're that solo person and you're in that struggle, I'd encourage you to reach out to Amy. You've gotten a lot of her warmth today. You've gotten a lot of her personality today. Honestly, She's somebody that I would want to connect to because she's got a very lively, upbeat personality. She's very warm and she's been through this. And I know for sure that if you connect with Amy, you will be encouraged and she will help you move forward. So, those are the ways that you can connect with Amy and get her expert advice. And so, lastly, you guys, before I wrap up today's episode, so I've got a short little announcement. So, you heard me mention just a few minutes ago how I've lost 62 and a half pounds. The key, though, is I've been able to keep that off for 6+ years now, all without a diet and all having that be sustainable. And right now, I am giving away my 3 secrets to helping you break free from the hunger addictions, to help you break free from snacking issues, from the sugar addictions, and even emotional eating. Lose that last 20 pounds, all of it. I'm giving away my 3 secrets. So, number one, you will be equipped with an empowered mindset. Number two, you are going to be equipped to be able to see past the industry lies, the food industry lies, and avoid the common pitfalls. And lastly, number three, you're going to be equipped to be able to see past the marketing deceptions of this industry. Look, you guys, you might be out there thinking that you are making all the right choices in the grocery store and really heartfelt making some good, healthy decisions for you, your family, your children, your grandchildren, all of that. But the reality is, and what I know is that majority of people out there, all they are doing is buying into marketing deceptions. The food companies, they put it all over their packages, they put it all over the front of things, the front of boxes, touting something to be healthy. Look, it's high in fiber. Look, it has no this. Look, it's only 140 calories. You got the nutrition bars out there that are touting themselves to be so healthy and a great option. And you're buying into that thinking that you're making a good decision. The reality is you're buying into marketing deceptions. And the food that's out there is actually causing issues in your journey and your goals. And so I help you break free from all of that in just 3 short one-on-one sessions with me in my mini educational bootcamp series. Right now, that series is going for $97. You guys, that's a steal. My bootcamp's actually been valued at $1,500 and it is going for $97. That is a steal. You've got nothing to lose but those extra pounds. You've got everything to gain in the right way. Lastly, I'm going to share my educational boot camp is something that's going to give you freedom. It's not something that's going to create frustration or deprivation around food. It is going to give you freedom in your choices with food. It's going to help you stand strong and free and empowered. So, with that, you're going to find the link to my bootcamp in the description below. You're also going to find Amy's short bio here in the description below and the 2 ways that you can connect with her. I will have the link to her Facebook profile down there as well for you to connect. And you will also have links that you can connect with me on as well. I'd encourage you, jump into my bootcamp. Like I said, you've got nothing to lose, and it's only $97. Come on, you guys. If that's a sizable investment, I think you need to reprioritize some things. So, anyhow, with that, you guys, Amy, any one more last chance? Any last thoughts before I end this episode?
My last thought is that I'm really grateful you had me here today, Ken. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to get to know you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure having you. I just love everything you've shared today. I love the fact that you have such a warm heart and such a heart to serve and to help others. It's so amazing. So, with that, you guys, have a great rest of your day or an evening, depending on where you are in the world and what time of day you're listening to this interview. I will talk to you on the next one. Talk to you guys later.